If the
Then
Clippers
again
win
this
one
year, they
chip
got
in
bounced.
Kawhi's tenure with the Clippers, is it a success or not?
It's a success.
That's it.
Yeah.
But they didn't sign up for 5 years from now. They signed up for today.
Expectations can really be the thief of joy. Yeah, the Clippers didn't win a championship yet, but who really knows what the future holds, especially with somebody like Kawhi Leonard coming back healthy. 2 months ago, Law Murray of The Athletic reported that Leonard is physically ready for next season and is not carrying any mental angst that comes with a return from an ACL surgery. This news is giant for Clipper fans and for me. The Los Angeles Clippers are yet another team for me who fall into the category of if they remain healthy, then this team will be a whole lot of fun. I don't care what anybody says. If this team was healthy, I think they would have caused some serious problems last season. I'm not sure how many people remember what was happening the last time the Los Angeles Clippers were relatively healthy and in the NBA playoffs. The last time that the Los Angeles Clippers were healthy and in the playoffs, Kawhi was going bonkers. In the first round against the Luka Doncic-led Mavericks, he averaged 32.1 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 4.6 assists on a mind-boggling 61.2% from the field and 42.5% from three. Kawhi was an absolute machine that year, and with him playing like that, I'm convinced that the Clippers were on their way to doing something special. That's not me saying that they would have beat the Bucks or anything like that, but in my opinion, they would have had every opportunity to, assuming, of course, that they'd handle their business with Phoenix. Guys, do you understand how hard it is for a wing to average 30 points and shoot over 60% from the field in a series that eclipses 5 games in the NBA playoffs? I've always loved how ready Kawhi has been for the moment. Some people, they're regular season players and the moment can be too big for them. Players like Kawhi, like Luka, like LeBron, they relish the moment and have the ability to take their game to another level when everybody's playing their hardest. Despite the injury that Kawhi would suffer in round 2 of those NBA playoffs, Paul George and the Clippers did anything but crumble. That year, Paul George reminded everybody who he really was, averaging 26.9 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 5.4 assists in the playoffs, leading the Kawhi-less Clippers past the Jazz en route to the Western Conference Finals. I really feel like the bubble ruined a lot of people's perception of Paul George. Don't get me wrong, some of the memes and all of that were comedy, but at the end of the day, PG was never his performance in the NBA bubble. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but I really don't even know how to rank the NBA bubble since it's clearly different from anything that the league had ever experienced. Now, don't get mad at me, just let me know how you rank the bubble in the comments below. Some people say it was the hardest championship ever, and I could understand that. But other people say that it was the easiest. When it comes to the bubble, I think Jason Tatum summed up my opinion the best.
So it was just like we was just out there playing. I ain't gonna say no names, but there was some people on the other team. I'm like, hold on, he don't normally play like that.
Man, when TJ Warren, okay, I'm going to relax. Anyways, the bubble produced some great basketball. I know if I was in the bubble, my mind would have been on much more than just basketball at that time, though. Don't get me wrong. I'm still super cautious and all of that stuff, but at the peak of the pandemic, I was literally mortified to even leave my house. When it comes to PG, you don't have to like his game, but you should have some respect for it. I can't be the only one who still gets chills every time I think of PG matching up with Bron, beating him off the dribble, and throwing down what was an iconic poster over what was at one point a notorious shot blocker. Everybody likes to talk about what Paul George isn't. Maybe it's time we started focusing on what he is. We're talking about somebody that is essentially a 6'9" two-way point guard who is undoubtedly one of the best shooters and smoothest players in the league. Everybody always talks about Kai when it comes to smooth, but what about my guy PG? With everything that I just said, I didn't even mention that this guy recovered from what was one of the wildest injuries that I'd ever witnessed. If that injury happened to me, I'd still be scared to jump. I tore up my Achilles a year ago and there's still some psychological stuff in play there. Not only did Paul George recover from his injury, but he became a bona fide MVP caliber player after it in OKC, having his best season. Unfortunately for Paul though, despite his game getting better, his injury luck still hasn't been the best. He hasn't played over 55 games since his OKC days. In fact, this past season, he only played 31 games, and despite this, the Clippers still almost managed to make the playoffs, going 24-27 in his absence, which might not sound like much, but when you factor in the sheer talent that this team was missing, it's massively impressive. It's even more impressive when you factor in that this team is only getting better. Some of the moves that this team has made in the recent years have been slept on. I saw this tweet the other day that said the Clippers' second five could legit beat some starting fives in the NBA. And I'm not entirely sure that tweet is wrong. Let me know what you guys think. Marcus Morris, Rocco, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, and John Wall? You know what's crazy? They left Coffey and Brandon Boston Jr. off of that list. Two guys with massive scoring upside. Guys, I really like Brandon Boston Jr. If you don't know him, he's one of those guys that fell in the draft because of a bad year in college. He's 6'6", 6'7", with a 6'11" wingspan. He's crafty, he can get to the basket, he is a tough player. The fact that he's only 20 and he's going to continue to practice with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and the rest of that Clippers team and staff, including Tyronn Lue, is just going to be amazing for his career. Yeah though guys, the Clippers bench equates to what is some serious depth. And now they also have John Wall. Guys, I'm sorry. I really wanted to show John Wall some love earlier, but to be fair, I've been incredibly busy because me and my girl recently had our first baby, so I have a valid excuse. John Wall is definitely somebody who I want to give their flowers to while they're still playing. We are talking about a literal mixtape legend, and you guys know how I feel about mixtapes. Anyways, OG mixtapes aside, Wall is another player whose demise I think has been greatly exaggerated. Yeah, the injuries have piled up, and yes, he's no longer in his prime, but he's going to the Clippers where he literally doesn't need to be. All Wall has to do to be a massive net positive for the Clippers is shoot the ball at a respectable clip, be a passable defender, and continue to play make at a high level. Wall averages 9.1 assists for his career. There are a lot of point guards in today's NBA who haven't done that over the course of one season. Wall is only 32, and in his last season in Houston, he was able to average 20.6 points and 6.9 assists. Of course, the efficiency could use some work, but it was clear that in Houston his mindset was a bit different, as he regularly hunted his own shot and clearly wanted to be the guy. It's really wild because Wall came to Houston and thought that he'd get this great opportunity to be the focal point or one of the focal points of a franchise, and then they just end up sitting him. Man, to this day, I still can't believe the Rockets sat Wall for the entire season. I also can't believe at one point that there were rumors that LA would be doing the exact same thing with Westbrook. Look, I understand that the Rockets had young hoopers who needed minutes. I understand that completely. I love Jalen Green. I love Kevin Porter Jr. And the thing is, the talent list goes on in Houston. We have a video on the Rockets probably coming out soon. It's just that I think that there was a more reasonable solution for both sides than what transpired. And this is coming from somebody who has a lot of love for the Houston Rockets. John Wall's impact went beyond basketball for Houston, which again is wild considering what went down. JG cites Wall as a major help and incredible vet presence, crediting him with helping to make his transition to the league as smooth as possible. To quote Green, "That's like my big bro. He gives me a bunch of advice. We are always talking on the court. When we're at the crib, we watch film together and he breaks down stuff. It's good to have a big bro off the court because it helps a lot." In December, JG would post a story to his IG featuring John Wall with the caption "Free him." Unfortunately, as we all know, he would not get his wish. I really think that some fans and even teams underrate the presence of a vet who's been there and done that. Let's be real, Udonis Haslem isn't still getting contracts because he's a walking double-double. Guys, in the comments below, let me know how good you guys think that John Wall will be this season. What do you see his stats looking like? Apparently Mark Stein has heard that John Wall has been looking good during his summer workouts. And again, this to me is no shock. This is somebody that has been through so much and is just waiting to hoop. Clipper fans, I think that you guys have a lot to be excited about. You've got the team, you've got the coach, you just need the health. And with me saying that, I now have the opportunity to show Lou a little more love because I really didn't do him justice this video. I think that he's hands down one of the best coaches in the league and his adjustments are A1. He's not perfect, but no coach is. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop. Until our next upload.